Have you ever felt like you're being watched? That creeping sensation that crawls up your spine when you're alone in your car at night. For most people, it's just paranoia. But for me, it was a warning I should have heeded. My name is Sarah Mitchell, and this is the story of how a simple drive home turned into a nightmare that would change my life forever. The rain hammered against my windshield as I pulled out of the office parking garage. It was 11:47 p.m. later than I'd ever stayed at work before. But the Henderson account needed to be finalized by morning. And as the newest associate at Blackwell & Associates, I couldn't afford to disappoint my boss again. The streets of downtown Seattle glistened under the amber streetlights. Deserted except for the occasional taxi or delivery truck, I should have been exhausted. But adrenaline still coursed through my veins from the 3 energy drinks I'd consumed in the past 4 hours. My fingers drummed nervously against the steering wheel as I waited at a red light. The rhythmic swish of windshield wipers the only sound accompanying the muffled hum of my Honda Civic's engine. That's when I first felt it. A prickling sensation at the base of my skull. The kind of feeling that makes you check your rearview mirror even when logic tells you there's nothing there. I glanced up, my eyes meeting the reflection of my empty back seat. Nothing but my gym bag and a forgotten umbrella. You're just tired, I told myself, pressing the accelerator as the light turned green. Get home, Sarah. Hot shower, warm bed. This will all seem ridiculous in the morning. But the feeling didn't go away. I lived in Fremont, about 20 minutes from downtown on a good night. With the rain and empty roads, I could probably make it in 15. I turned onto Aurora Avenue, the arterial road that would take me north toward home. The streetlights became fewer, the spaces between them longer and darker. My phone buzzed in the cup holder. I glanced down briefly at text from my boyfriend, Marcus. Working late again? This is the 3rd time this week. We need to talk. I sighed, guilt gnawing at my stomach. Marcus was right. I'd been neglecting our relationship, canceling dates, missing his sister's birthday dinner last weekend. But what choice did I have? My boss, Vivian Blackwell, had made it clear that my performance review was coming up, and she expected nothing short of perfection from her team. Another glance in the rearview mirror, my heart stopped. There was someone in my back seat. A figure. Hunched low, barely visible in the darkness. My hands jerked on the wheel, and the car swerved slightly before I corrected it. My breath came in short, panicked gasps as I stared into the mirror, trying to convince myself I'd imagined it. The figure was still there. I could see the outline, now broad shoulders. A dark jacket. Something covering their face. They weren't moving, just sitting there in the shadows behind my passenger seat. So still they could have been a statue. Terror flooded my system. My first instinct was to scream, but no sound came out. My second was to slam on the brakes and jump out of the car. But we were doing 45 miles per hour on a busy arterial. In my rational mind, the part that hadn't completely shut down and fear told me that was suicide. How did they get in? When did they get in? I'd been the last person in the parking garage. I'd watched the security guard, old Jimmy, with his thermos of coffee and friendly wave, lock the pedestrian entrance behind me. My car had been locked. I always locked my car, didn't I? My mind raced back. I'd been distracted thinking about the Henderson account, mentally rehearsing my presentation. Had I heard the click of the locks engaging? I couldn't remember. The figure in the back seat shifted slightly. I bit back a scream, my knuckles white as I gripped the steering wheel. I needed to think. I needed a plan. The police station there was a precinct on 1/5th Street, just a few miles ahead. If I could make it there, if I could pull into the parking lot with lights and cameras and officers, I pressed harder on the accelerator. 50 miles per hour, 55. I know you're back there, I said, my voice barely above a whisper, shaking so badly I could hardly recognize it as my own. I'm driving to the police station. Right now? So whatever you're planning, it won't work. Silence. No response. No movement. Just that terrible, oppressive presence behind me. My eyes darted between the road and the rearview mirror. In the brief flashes of passing streetlights, I could see more details. The figure wore a dark hoodie, pulled low over their face. Their hands, I could see their hands now, resting on their knees. They were wearing gloves. Black gloves. This was planned. This was deliberate. "What do you want?" I demanded, trying to inject strength into my voice and failing miserably. "Money? My purse is right there. Take it. Just don't hurt me." Still nothing. The silence was somehow worse than any threat could have been. It was predatory, patient. Like a cat watching a mouse, waiting for the perfect moment to pounce. I fumbled for my phone, trying to keep one eye on the road and one on the mirror. If I could just call 911, if I could just tell them where I was. Don't. The voice came from the back seat, low, distorted, barely human. "Don't touch the phone, Sarah." They knew my name. The phone slipped from my trembling fingers, clattering into the footwell. Fresh waves of panic washed over me. This wasn't random. This wasn't some opportunistic carjacker. They knew who I was. "How do you know my name?" I choked out. "Who are you?" "Keep driving." The voice was calm, almost gentle, which made it infinitely more terrifying. "Don't slow down. Don't stop. Don't try anything stupid." Tears streamed down my face now, hot and unchecked. The police station was still 3 miles away. 3 miles that suddenly seemed like 300. "Oh, please," I begged. "Please, I have a family. I have people who love me. Whatever this is, whatever you think I did what you did." The figure leaned forward slightly, and I could feel their breath on the back of my neck. My skin crawled. "Oh, Sarah, you really don't remember, do you?" "Remember what?" "I don't know what you're talking about." 3 years ago, December 15th. Does that date mean anything to you?" My mind scrambled, searching through memories. December 15th, 3 years ago. That would have been 2021. I'd been in law school then, in my final year. December would have been exam season, endless nights in the library. Stress and caffeine and the memory hit me like a physical blow. December 15th, 2021. The night. I'd been driving home from a study group, exhausted and running on fumes. The night I'd been going too fast on a residential street because I was late, because I wasn't paying attention, because I was young and stupid and thought I was invincible. The night someone had stepped into the crosswalk, I'd swerved. I'd slammed on the brakes. I'd heard the sickening thud of impact, seen the figure tumble across my hood. But when I'd stopped the car, when I jumped out with my heart in my throat, there was no one there. I'd searched the street, the sidewalk, the bushes. Nothing. No body. No blood, no evidence that anything had happened except for a small dent in my hood that could have come from anywhere. I'd convinced myself I'd imagined it, that I'd been so tired my mind was playing tricks on me. I'd driven home, parked my car, and never spoke of it to anyone. But I hadn't imagined it. "You remember now," the voice said, no longer a question. "I can see it in your eyes." "In the mirror?" "I looked for you," I stammered. There was no one there. "I thought I'd imagined it." "You thought wrong." The figure's hand reached forward, and I flinched, but they only pointed toward the road ahead. "Keep driving. We're going to take a little detour." No, I'm going to the police station. I'm turning myself in, if that's what you want. But I'm not." The cold press of metal against the back of my neck made me freeze. "A gun." "They had a gun," I said. The voice repeated, quieter now, more dangerous. "We're taking a detour. Take the next right. Toward Green Lake." My entire body trembled as I flipped on my turn signal absurdly, following traffic laws even as I was being kidnapped. The rain had intensified, turning the world outside into a blurry watercolor of grays and blacks. Green Lake was a park area, mostly deserted this time of night, surrounded by trees and dark paths. The perfect place to kill someone. "Please," I whispered one more time. "Please don't do this. You took someone from me that night, Sarah. Someone I loved more than anything in this world. You didn't stop. You didn't call for help. You just drove away and pretended it never happened. I didn't know. I swear I didn't know anyone was hurt. There was no one there when I got out of the car, LIAR. The gun pressed harder against my neck, and I sobbed, certain these were my last moments. You didn't even look properly. You didn't want to know. You were too worried about your precious future, your law school career, all the plans you had? Well, guess what? My sister had plans too. She had a future too. And you took it from her. Sister. The person I'd hit had been a woman. A girl? Really? I'd seen her for just a split second in my headlights before impact showed. Maybe 19 or 20. Wearing a bright red coat and headphones. She survived the impact. The voice continued, thick with emotion now. Did you know that? She survived. She lay in that street for 30 minutes before someone else found her. 30 minutes in the cold and rain, bleeding internally, crying for help that didn't come. If you'd stopped, if you'd called 911 right away, she might have made it. But you didn't. By the time the ambulance arrived, it was too late. The guilt that crashed over me was suffocating. All this time, I'd told myself it was nothing, that I'd been paranoid and exhausted, but somewhere in the back of my mind, I'd always known. I'd known, and I'd chosen to ignore it because facing the truth would have destroyed everything I'd worked for. I'm sorry, I sobbed. I'm so sorry. I was scared and stupid and young, and I made a terrible mistake. But killing me won't bring her back. No, the figure agreed. It won't. But it will make things even. A life for a life. That's justice. Isn't it? Isn't that what you learned in law school? We were approaching the lake now. The street curved along the dark water, empty of cars and pedestrians. Through my tears, I could see the figure's eyes in the rearview mirror for the first time red-rimmed. Haunted, filled with a pain so deep it seemed bottomless. Pull over. There they instructed, gesturing to a small parking area surrounded by trees. Kill the engine. This was it. This was where it ended. I thought of Marcus, of the text I'd never answered. Of my parents, who would get a call tomorrow that would shatter their world. Of all the things I'd never get to do, never get to say. But I didn't want to die. As I pulled into the parking spot, my mind raced. The gun was against my neck, but if I moved fast enough, if I threw myself out of the car, it was a chance. Maybe my only chance. Engine off, the voice commanded. My hand moved to the ignition, but instead of turning the key, I made my choice. I threw the car into park, shoved my door open, and lunged out into the rain. No. The figure's shout echoed behind me as I ran, my feet slipping on the wet pavement. I heard the back door slam open, heard footsteps pounding after me. A gunshot cracked through the night, and pain exploded in my shoulder. I screamed but kept running, stumbling toward the trees, toward anything that might provide cover. My shoulder burned, warm blood mixing with cold rain, but adrenaline pushed me forward. Another shot. One missed, splintering bark from a tree to my left. I could hear them behind me, crashing through the underbrush. My lungs burned, my vision blurred. But ahead, through the trees, I saw lights a house. Someone's back porch illuminated. I ran toward it like a woman possessed, my wounded arm hanging useless at my side. Behind me, the footsteps stopped. "This isn't over, Sarah," the voice called out through the darkness. "You can run, but I'll find you again. This debt will be paid." I didn't stop running until I reached that porch, until I was pounding on the door with my good hand, screaming for help, for police, for anyone who could hear me. When the door finally opened, when I collapsed into the arms of a terrified elderly couple who immediately called 911, when I heard the distant wail of sirens approaching, I knew one thing with absolute certainty. This was far from over, and whoever was in my back seat that night would be back to finish what they started. 3 weeks had passed since that night, but I still couldn't close my eyes without seeing those haunted eyes staring back at me from my rearview mirror. The police had searched Green Lake for hours, but my attacker had vanished like smoke. No fingerprints in the car, no DNA evidence, no witnesses, just my testimony and a bullet wound in my shoulder that would leave a permanent scar, a reminder of the debt I owed. The life I'd taken, and the vengeance that was still coming for me. The fluorescent lights of my apartment buzzed overhead as I sat at my kitchen table, surrounded by case files I couldn't focus on. My laptop screen glowed with the same web page I'd been staring at for the past hour, an obituary from 3 years ago. Emily Chen, age 20, beloved daughter and sister, taken too soon. Emily was a student at the University of Washington, majoring in environmental science with dreams of protecting the planet. She is survived by her parents, David and Linda Chen, and her older sister, Rachel Chen. A memorial service will be held. Rachel Chen. The name tasted like ashes in my mouth. I'd found her easily enough through social media, rather the ghost of her social media presence. Her accounts had gone dark 3 years ago, right after Emily's death. The last post on her Instagram was a picture of the two sisters together, arms around each other, laughing at some private joke. Caption read, "My best friend, my partner in crime, my everything. Love you, Em." 2 days later, Emily was dead, and Rachel had disappeared from the online world entirely until she reappeared in my back seat. My shoulder throbbed, a phantom pain that the doctors said would fade with time. They'd removed the bullet, patched me up, prescribed painkillers I was too afraid to take because I needed to stay alert. Marcus had wanted to stay with me, but I'd pushed him away. How could I explain that the attack wasn't random? I deserved what happened. That somewhere out there, Rachel Chen was planning her next move and anyone near me was in danger? So I'd broken up with him. Via text. Like a coward. Just another person I'd hurt. Another relationship destroyed by my choices. My phone buzzed, making me jump. A number I didn't recognize. My hand trembled as I answered. Hello. Silence. Then breathing. Slow, deliberate breathing. "I know you're looking for me, Sarah." Rachel's voice came through. That same distorted quality that haunted my nightmares, searching for my name, trying to understand. "That's good. You should understand exactly who I was before you took her from me. Rachel, please don't say my name like we're friends, like you have any right to speak it." The venom in her voice made me flinch. "I've been watching you. Every day since that night at the lake, watching you go to work, watching you push away the people who love you, watching you suffer." "Good, you should suffer." I stood up, moving to my window, paranoia making me scan the street below. "What do you want from me? Just tell me what you want. I want my sister back. Can you give me that?" A bitter laugh. "No, then I want you to feel what I felt. The helplessness, the agony. The knowledge that everything you cared about is being ripped away and there's nothing you can do to stop it." "I'll go to the police," I said, hating how weak my voice sounded. "I'll confess to everything. I'll tell them what I did that night. I'll go to prison if that's what it takes, prison." She scoffed. 3 years have passed, Sarah. The statute of limitations for vehicular manslaughter in Washington is 3 years. You know that you're a lawyer, or you're trying to be. You got away with it. Legally, you're free and clear. My heart sank. She was right. I'd looked it up myself, hoping and dreading in equal measure. Even if I confessed now, the worst I'd face would be a moral reckoning, not a legal one. "So this is it?" I asked. "You're just going to torture me forever? Kill me eventually?" "Oh, Sarah, you really don't understand yet, do you? I don't want you dead." Her voice took on an eerie calmness. "I want you to live. I want you to wake up every day knowing what you did, knowing you got away with it, knowing that somewhere out there, I'm watching, waiting. And when you finally build a new life, when you finally let yourself feel happy again, that's when I'll take it all away. Just like you did to Emily. Just like you did to me." The line went dead. I stood frozen at the window, my phone slipping from my numb fingers. This wasn't just about revenge anymore. This was psychological warfare, a long game designed to destroy me from the inside out. I couldn't live like this. I wouldn't, but what choice did I have? The next morning, I made a decision. If Rachel wanted to play a long game, I'd change the board. I called in sick to work not difficult, given my shoulder injury, and started making plans. I needed to find Rachel Chen. Really find her. I needed to confront her face to face, somewhere she couldn't hide in shadows and speak in distorted voices. My first stop was the address listed in Emily's obituary, the Chen family home in the Ballard neighborhood, a modest craftsman style. A house with a garden that had clearly once been lovingly maintained, but now showed signs of neglect. I sat in my car across the street for 20 minutes, gathering courage. What was I even doing? What did I expect to accomplish? Finally, I forced myself out of the car and walked up the path to the front door. My hand shook as I rang the doorbell. The woman who answered was in her late 50s, with graying hair and eyes that held an ocean of sorrow. Emily's mother, Linda Chen. Mrs. Chen, I managed. My name is Sarah Mitchell. I need to talk to you about your daughter, Rachel. The woman's expression shifted from polite confusion to something harder, more guarded. She hasn't for 3 years. I know, but I need to find her. It's important, please. Linda studied me for a long moment, her eyes catching on the sling supporting my injured arm. You're the one? She said finally. Not a question. My blood ran cold. I'm sorry? Rachel told us there'd been an accident? That she'd found the person responsible for Emily's death. That she was going to make them understand what they'd taken from us. Linda's voice was flat, emotionless. I told her to let it go. That revenge wouldn't bring Emily back. But she wouldn't listen. She hasn't been the same since that night. She's like a ghost herself. Tears stung my eyes. Mrs. Chen, I am so sorry for what happened to Emily. I was young and scared, and I made a terrible choice. I should have stopped. I should have called for help. I've regretted it every single day since. But not enough to come forward, Linda said quietly. Not until my daughter forced you to face what you'd done. I had no response to that. She was right. Linda sighed, a sound so tired and defeated it broke my heart. Rachel is staying at a cabin near Mount Rainier. Our family used to go there when the girls were young. Before... She trailed off. I'll give you the address. Not because I forgive you. I don't know if I ever can. But because Rachel needs help, and she won't accept it from us. Maybe facing you one last time will give her some closure. She disappeared inside, returning with an address written on a small piece of paper. As she handed it to me, our fingers touched briefly. My daughter is drowning in grief, Linda said. Don't let her pull you under with her. And don't let her become something she's not. Emily wouldn't have wanted this. She wouldn't have wanted Rachel to destroy herself for revenge. The drive to Mount Rainier took 3 hours. 3 hours of winding mountain roads, towering evergreens, and crushing anxiety about what I was driving toward. The cabin was remote, accessible only by a narrow dirt road that my Honda struggled to navigate. When I finally saw it through the trees, a small, weathered structure with smoke curling from its chimney, I almost turned back. But I'd come this far. I owed Emily this much. I owed Rachel this much. I parked and approached the cabin on foot, my heart hammering so loudly I was sure Rachel could hear it from inside. The door opened before I could knock. Rachel Chen stood in the doorway, and seeing her in full light for the first time was shocking. She was thin to the point of gauntness, with dark circles under her eyes and unkempt hair that might have once been beautiful. She wore the same dark hoodie from that night, and in her hand no gun, this time, but a photograph. The picture of her and Emily. You found me, she said, her voice raw and unfiltered without the distortion. I knew you would. I left enough breadcrumbs. Rachel, don't. She held up her hand. Don't apologize again. Don't tell me you're sorry. I've heard it. I don't care. Then what do you want me to say? Nothing. She stepped aside. Come in. We need to end this. Every instinct screamed at me to run, but I walked into the cabin. It was sparse inside, just basic furniture and the remnants of a fire in the fireplace. But what caught my attention were the walls. They were covered in photographs. Hundreds of them. All of Emily. Emily as a child, a teenager, a young woman. Emily laughing, studying, sleeping, living. And interspersed among them, photographs of me. Recent ones. Me leaving my apartment. Me at work. Me buying coffee. Me existing in a world where Emily no longer did. This is what you took from me, Rachel said, gesturing to the shrine she'd created. Not just my sister. My best friend. The only person who really understood me. We were supposed to grow old together, be in each other's weddings, raise our kids as cousins. You erased an entire future with one moment of carelessness. Stared at the photographs, really seeing Emily Chen for the first time. Not as an abstract victim, but as a real person with dreams and love and potential. The weight of what I'd done crashed over me with renewed force. You're right, I said quietly. Everything you've said, everything you've done, you're right. I deserve all of it. The fear, the pain, the guilt. I deserve worse. If you want to kill me, I won't fight back. Maybe that's the only justice there can be. Rachel laughed, a broken sound. You think I haven't thought about it? Every single day. How easy it would be. I had a gun to your neck that night in the car. I could have pulled the trigger. I could have ended it. Why didn't you? She turned away, her shoulders shaking. Because Emily wouldn't have wanted me to. Because my parents have already lost one daughter, and if I kill you, they lose me too. Because somewhere deep down, underneath all this rage and grief, I know that murder won't heal me. It'll just make me the same as you, someone who took a life and has to live with it forever. We stood in silence, surrounded by the ghosts of what was and what might have been. I've been so angry for so long, Rachel continued, her voice breaking. It's consumed everything. I dropped out of grad school. I pushed away my friends, my family, everyone who tried to help me. I became obsessed with finding you, with making you pay. And now that I have, I'm just empty. You standing here, offering to let me kill you, it should feel satisfying. But it just feels hollow. What happens now? I asked. Rachel was quiet for a long time. Finally, she walked to the fireplace and picked up a box of matches. Now, we burn it. All of it. The photographs of you, the obsession, the revenge, we let it go. She struck a match and held it to one of the photographs of me. The paper caught fire, curling and blackening. Then another, and another. I watched my image consumed by flames, and with each photograph that burned, I felt something shift inside me. This doesn't mean I forgive you, Rachel said as the fire grew. I don't know if I ever will, but I can't let this destroy me anymore. And you need to do something with the life you still have. Something meaningful. Something that honors Emily instead of just hiding from what you did. Tell me about her, I said. Please, I need to know who she was. And Rachel did. As the photographs burned, she told me stories. How Emily had volunteered at an animal shelter every weekend. How she'd planned to work for the EPA, fighting climate change. How she'd made the world's worst pancakes, but insisted on making them every Sunday morning anyway. How she'd laughed at her own jokes before she even got to the punchline. I listened and wept, and finally was truly grieved for Emily Chen. Not as the girl I'd hit with my car, but as the person she'd been. The person whose absence had left a hole in the world by the time the last photograph had turned to ash. Dawn was breaking outside the cabin windows. I'm going to law school, Rachel said suddenly. Criminal justice reform. I'm going to help people who get lost in the system, who don't get the justice they deserve. It's what Emily would have done. And I'm going to start a foundation, I heard myself say. In Emily's name? For pedestrian safety? For victims of hit-and-run accidents? Every penny I make for the rest of my life, it goes there. Rachel looked at me, really looked at me, for the first time without pure hatred in her eyes. That's not enough to make it right. No. Nothing will ever make it right. But it's a start. We stood in the ashes of our shared tragedy. Two women bound together by loss and guilt and the faint, fragile hope of something better. You should go, Rachel said finally. I need time. We both do. But maybe someday, when it doesn't hurt so much, we can talk again. Compare notes on how we're doing. Keep each other honest. I'd like that, I said, as I drove back down the mountain. The morning sun breaking through the trees. I felt something I hadn't felt in 3 years. Not happiness, not forgiveness, but possibility. The possibility of redemption, of healing, of taking the worst thing I'd ever done and finding a way to create something good from the wreckage. Rachel had given me the greatest gift she could, not vengeance, but a chance to make amends, and I was going to spend the rest of my life trying to be worthy of it. 5 years later, the Emily Chen Memorial Foundation had grown beyond anything I'd imagined. What started as a small nonprofit had evolved into a national organization, lobbying for better crosswalk lighting, pushing for harsher penalties for hit-and-run drivers, and providing support for victims' families. I stood at the podium in the Seattle Convention Center, looking out at hundreds of faces gathered for our annual gala, Among them, in the third row, sat Linda and David Chen. And next to them, Rachel. Rachel and I weren't friends. I wasn't sure we ever would be. The wound was too deep, the scar tissue too thick. But we were allies, comrades in a shared mission. She'd finished law school and now worked as a prosecutor, specializing in vehicular crimes. Together, we'd helped pass legislation that closed the statute of limitations loophole, ensuring no one else could evade justice the way I had. 5 years ago, I began, my voice steady, despite the emotions churning inside me. I made a choice that I will regret for the rest of my life. A choice that cost a brilliant young woman her future and left a family shattered by grief. I can't undo what I did. I can't bring Emily Chen back. But I can dedicate every day I have left to making sure her legacy lives on through safer streets, stronger laws, and a world where every life is valued and protected. I paused, making eye contact with Rachel. She gave me the smallest nod. This foundation exists because of Emily's light, and because her sister Rachel refused to let that light be forgotten. Thank you all for being here tonight, for supporting this cause, and for helping us turn tragedy into hope. As the audience applauded, I stepped down from the podium. The road ahead was long, and the guilt would never fully disappear. But for the first time since that terrible night 3 years ago, that night, when I saw someone in my back seat and came face to face with the consequences of my actions, I felt something close to peace. Not forgiveness, not redemption, but purpose. And sometimes that's enough.